welcome to the Raptors Show on Sportsnet 90 The Fan, powered by DoorDash. I'm your host, Wim Lou. I am joined, as I am almost every Tuesday, by the Fan Morning Show's Blake Murphy, producer.
Blake Murphy.
Tuesday! Forgot about that thing.
Yeah, I'm really happy that we're in studio again because I love seeing how uncomfortable that thing makes you. And also another thing that potentially might make you uncomfortable, I have a producer's note from Alex, who is obviously not here every Tuesday or Wednesday, but he's working hard at home right now, I promise you. He wrote in here that Blake wants to be introduced as a special honorary Chinese guest for Lunar New Year. So, welcome. Obviously, we know how hardworking you are and all these other traits that Chinese people love being associated with. So,
Happy New Year to anyone listening, and Gong Hei Fat Choi.
Wow, look at that. Damn.
Was it all right?
That's pretty good.
All right.
That's pretty good. Also, I missed this, but as a reminder, we are back in the studio and streaming live again on Sportsnet's YouTube channel, Monday to Friday between 2 and 3 p.m. So to the people watching on YouTube, hello. Blake, you can wave too. Wow. Okay,
I don't know
Gary.
which camera. Look, man, it's been almost.
You're looking over there, man.
Yeah. Hey, what's up? It's been almost 2 months since I've been in the studio. So not only am I not in the right chair that I'd normally be in, because when we do the morning show, I sit over there. That's not a camera seat. That's why I sit there. You got Ailish and JD, who are much more attractive if we go to YouTube. So they sit me in that chair. But yes, I haven't been in the studio. I haven't been around people since like before Christmas.
Yeah.
Because this is all I do.
I missed you, man.
Yeah, I missed you too.
Yeah.
Have you physically been at the arena these last couple home games?
No, I've been to the last 3 now, which have been actually quite enjoyable. Not saying I don't enjoy the fans, but it's just like no one else is there. It's like almost the ultimate VIP experience.
Let me ask
for the media.
So I was talking to a friend who was covering the Leafs game last night, and on TV, the arena sounds pick up really nicely from hockey. You get like the slicing of the ice, you get the bang of the boards, you get the sticks chipping at each other, and it picks up really well on the broadcast. But apparently in the arena, it sounds awful because they're bumping in game ops and fake fan noise. Mm-hmm. What is the in-game experience like for the Raptors? Because I'm not coming tonight. It's Raps Leafs double dip, so I'm gonna double barrel them from home. But I think I'm gonna come Thursday. Be my first media game since before we shut it back down. So
I will see you there.
So are we getting fake crowd noise? Are we bumping game ops really loud? What's the deal?
We are getting fake crowd noise. The game ops is still quite loud. They will still at the start of the fourth quarter prompt you to make some noise.
Oh yeah. Is it still I Put On by Kanye as we come back, as you rush back from the bathroom at the start of the fourth?
That is generally when I use the bathroom, Blake.
I meant you as in like the royal you, not necessarily.
I know I'm going to be live on air for about an hour afterwards, so just got to do my prep beforehand. But yeah, it's the arena's weird. It's really weird. Like it first off, the strangest thing is just it gets so silent as soon as the game is over. Like because usually there's like a murmur of fans and people rushing out and everything like that. Like there's just none of that. It's just like dead silent 30 seconds after the game is over. And then the other part is just like, you can kind of do whatever you want as the media now. I mean, I'm not saying that you can break the rules. I'm just saying like you can walk around your freedom. You can definitely see a clear view of the players and everything that they're doing. And, Masai sometimes walks up to people, like last game, Masai just walked over to the media section and was just, chatting people up for about 10 minutes,
You weren't in the gondola? Is it just like a free-for-all on you? You have 18,000 seats to choose from?
I mean, no. So they don't want you to sit essentially on the seats where you can be seen on the broadcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you're on the hard camera side, you're good.
You're pretty much good for like a U section of the arena.
Unbelievable.
I mean, they would like you to sit like closer to your seat, but I mean, like, look, if you want to walk around and watch, no one's really watching you and stuff like that. You're okay. Yeah. Nice. So it's good. It's a good experience. I thank you to Raptors Media for setting this up. I think it's actually ultimately like quite enjoyable. And then eventually we'll get fans back in, which will be like for the greater good.
If Alex was here, I'd ask him what the media meal setup is like, just so I can prep for Thursday. But
you still get a voucher. You still get you don't have an option anymore. Well, you have a veggie option and a meat option, but other than that, yeah.
Whatever, man. What are you going to do? But yeah, I'm excited to get back to Mar here Thursday. It was supposed to be Kyle and DeMar week.
I know. Hopefully everything's okay with Kyle.
Yeah, love and energy out to him and his family and everything.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, you saw the Heat? So they got smacked by the Celtics, unfortunately.
Yeah,
But they rested Jimmy.
no Jimmy, no Kyle, no PJ.
Mm.
And yeah, I'm not sure if it was like rest or they're injured. So it's 2:05 right now. They have not submitted their injury report yet, which
How dare they?
even on a back-to-back is I thought you were supposed to have it in by 1:30.
Let's call Adam Silver right now.
Yeah.
We have a producer. A producer call Adam Silver.
Yeah,
okay?
maybe we'll
Like
get
to
the
file a
update.
complaint.
Maybe we'll get the update at 2:30 while we're on break. But yeah, no Jimmy, no PJ, no Kyle last night, as well as Morris, Okpala have been out for a while. So
Right.
they were pretty thin. And now the only thing that wasn't clear was that they were hurt or was that they chose that game to rest because they played so many minutes on Saturday and they're also in the middle of a 4-game and 5 stretch.
Right.
So
this is like the makeup week, essentially.
Yeah.
For missed games due to COVID. All right. Well, we will talk about the Raptors Heat probably tomorrow. But right now, let's talk about the game that happened last night. Raptors defeating the Hawks, winning by a score of 106-100 over Atlanta. I mean, look, first off, they didn't have Trae Young. Trae Young, obviously, very, very important. He's had great games against the Raptors in the past. Clearly a big absence for them. However, I got to say the Hawks played pretty tough. They played to their strengths. Their defense was a lot stronger than in previous games that I've seen between the Raptors and the Hawks. They were really able to lock down the paint. I mean, we're even watching some highlights now of Pascal spinning around Clint Capella. Oh, wow, great layup. But in any case, they had a lot of size in the middle, and it was not an easy win. So what were some of your takeaways from the game last night?
That's been key to their turnaround, right? The 7-game win streak. Like even when they were struggling before and they started the season 17-25, they were still the number 2 offense in the league. This wasn't Trae Young struggling to score. It wasn't this team struggling to put the ball in the net. It was mostly defensive. And I think a big part of the swing has been Onyeka coming into the rotation.
Yeah,
and,
he was great.
He missed a chunk of the season and whatever. Sometimes it takes young guys a little bit to find their groove. And the Hawks have been a little careful, making sure he's either out there with John Collins or out there as the kind of small ball center. Not, he's not, how do I word this delicately? He's not being asked to make up for some of the pick and roll mistakes that Clint Capella is suddenly making all the time.
Yeah.
I thought I was a little surprised at how shaky he was defensively last night, but everyone else there looks good. And even their poor defenders or their less elite defenders, they're all pretty big and they're all pretty physical with the exception of Lou Williams. So you run a rotation that when Trae Young's there can go 10 deep, and then you have size everywhere except for Lou and Trae. So you can be, physical, and they're not a good rebounding team, but they're not a terrible rebounding team.
Yeah.
I like what I saw from them. I didn't think they were conference finals good last year, but I was surprised they started the season so poorly. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if they're one of the teams that comes out of the play-in mix in the East.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, they clearly have a really good mix of shooting. Even without Trae last night, I thought like Bogdanovich was hurting the Raptors, Herter was hurting the Raptors. I thought DeAndre Hunter played a really good game, especially from the mid-range. Didn't realize he was such a good mid-range shooter, although he did miss one late in the game when the Raptors really turned up their defense. But, I thought, look, the Hawks gave a pretty good effort, and especially in that second quarter where the Raptors were down double digits, it was like, okay, wow, like this is not going to be easy for them at all. But then that third quarter, they completely turned it around, winning by 33-15. It was, a lot of Gary Trent Jr. He literally outscored the Hawks by himself in the third quarter. He had 17. The Hawks had 15 points. But I also thought, like, defensively, like, it's a weird thing with the starting unit because I feel like they can guard, but sometimes they don't come out very strong. So they're overall, like, when you look at their lineup data, it always looks like a little bit unimpressive. I think they're a net negative so far in the season. Last I checked, they were like -6 per 100 possessions. But at the same time, we know that this group can like really turn it on and they're very capable of very strong stretches of play. And I thought that started the third quarter. Everybody kind of locked into the roles. You can see how disruptive they get. Like the Hawks just really started just turning the ball over every other play. And that's usually when the Raptors look at their best, is when they can play off of that defense.
It's a big factor for the Hawks. Obviously it's a big factor for the Raptors defense. It's the kind of the trademark of their defense, and they use that length and that size and that recovery ability to be really aggressive on the ball and in passing lanes. And Atlanta takes care of the ball overall, but they use the pick and roll more than any other team in the league. And they're a little turnover prone in those scenarios. And that's an area the Raptors have done pretty well defensively. So I'm not surprised that was kind of a turning point item for the Raptors. And yeah, you mentioned that starting lineup. We're at 178 minutes now over 11 games. That's the most sample you're going to get on the Raptors. It's not really a big sample still overall. It's been mostly on the offensive end where they haven't been particularly effective. The defense is at 106.6 D rating, which is fine. It's you'd expect that group to probably be even a little better than that in the long run, but it's really, it's the offense that hasn't quite come. And I wanted to ask you about this today because Gary Trent does go for 31, and some of those are catch and shoot. But Gary Trent is on this monster stretch of 4 straight games with 30 or more, has a chance to tie DeMar's franchise record for the 30-piece streak tonight. But a lot of what Gary Trent Jr. does is kind of an offense unto itself, right? Like he's at over 60% self-created on his twos. He's at over 20% self-created on his threes, which is a pretty high number for, a tertiary or secondary scorer type. And I think it's great because the Raptors really need that, right? The Raptors have to be a decent mid-range team because they can't put pressure on the rim. But I'm wondering about how you feel about how that starting five is coming together offensively, because obviously Fred and Pascal have their chemistry. And then the other three, we know their spots offensively. We know what they do well offensively. Are you seeing it start to come together where, hey, maybe a little while from now, we'll see some synergy between these pieces?
I mean, I think that's the ideal outcome. It's really weird because, like I said, I think at the start of games, I don't know. It's like guys kind of take their turns, trying to initiate, trying to create. I thought Gary was aggressive from the start. I think he had the Raptors' first basket last night off a three where I think Pascal kicked at them in the corner. He did his little patented sidestep move, got himself a little bit more separation, and shot the three, made it.
I like how you said you think, and then you lay out every inch of the action. You're like LeBron post-game playoff podium right now.
Yeah.
It's like, well, when Kevin turned his head to the right and Delly, when I saw him come off the hip at this angle instead of that angle, I looked for him.
You know what? I appreciate the compliment, but that specific compliment is starting to trigger me because I'm pretty sure you're describing that one elbow play that they ran like 12 straight times.
13 times in a row and scored on all of them.
God.
I shouldn't have said Kevin, though, because I believe it was Channing Frye, the melted face god.
God, he destroyed the Raptors in the playoffs every year, it seemed. Anyway, it turns out playing drop defense with JV only goes so far against certain matchups.
And sorry to the listeners, it's like, hey, let's talk about this positive win from last night. Sure, here are some Cavs nightmares that you can relive.
That is, I mean, obviously the LeBron toe shot is like number one, but that stretch right there is like number two for me. And then Serge getting the ball spun in his face. Yeah. And LeBron sipping a beer. LeBron is a jerk. But eventually, one day when LeBron has the Last Dance documentary, because he's copying Jordan's career otherwise, the Raptors will have a whole entire chapter, and I'm going to just have to skip that whole chapter.
You're going to be in that chapter.
I will not.
You're definitely going to be one of the subjects they interview. Like when they bring in the odd sports writer in The Last Dance.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm just going to be like, I was a fan at the game, and I paid $200 to go watch Raptors Cavs 2017 Game 4, thinking before the series started, wow, that would be a great game to go to, a pivotal game. And it was like the last game of that run. It was a tough one. I think DeMar Carroll and Patrick Patterson scored like a combined 13 points in that whole series. Anyway, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about this game. The starting lineup offense, I mean, it feels like to me like guys sort of take turns and then eventually they kind of settle into their roles. Now, the one concern I have is like when they settle into their roles in like crunch time or eventually it's like Scottie's definitely the fifth option, right? And then Pascal and Fred are the central action. We saw in the way they closed the game last night, so they closed with the starting five. It was a lot of Pascal and Fred running pick and roll. That's really good because they're your best two players. B, like you can run a lot of variations with that. You're evolving a small defender with a much bigger defender. You can try to introduce switches, which they do quite a bit. You can kind of have them both operate both sides of the ball in terms of like Pascal will handle it, Fred will screen, or Fred will handle it, Pascal will screen, and they can kind of read and react and do essentially what the defense tries to sort of play them against. They can kind of use that against them. But at the same time, that's also contingent on a couple of things. I think basically every night they need one of these two guys to step up as a third option, and it's either OG or Gary. Of late, it's obviously been Gary, so their offenses look better. But some nights I think they struggle to find that third scorer, and then also I just think that like when you don't have a traditional like center to go with that group, it's not as much rim pressure as you can normally get. So I think it's still a bit of a work in progress, but it also is just at the start of games, it does feel like a little bit that they sort of settle into like, okay, let's see if Gary has it going. Let's see if Fred has it going. Let's see if Pascal has it going. Let's see if OG gets a shot. And it doesn't feel as fluid as it does maybe towards the end of games when they're trying to like extract every single point per possession you can possibly get in a tight moment, you know?
I'd agree with that. And I think you can contrast two plays from the last two games, right? There's that one against Miami where, everyone's exhausted, first of all, but Fred does that, string out the clock and then break down the defense and then kick it to Gary on the wing, who swings it to OG in the corner, and the shot clock goes off before they get it. And then last night they execute a very similar thing, but they execute it in time, and OG gets that clutch three. And I think that's okay if you spend 40 minutes of a game figuring out what works tonight, what works against this team, what are we going to need late. And if the Raptors wanted to maximize every point, every possession, and treat every individual possession as its own, they would use nothing but the Fred Pascal pick and roll. But that's not how a 48-minute game gets played in an 82-game season. So I'm okay with some of that experimenting. This time come April, I'd like to see the pieces making life easier for each other a little bit more. But it's great that, on a given night, all of these guys can seem to get theirs individually. Like OG had that really good night the other night. Scottie has obviously had some big nights, what was it, the Portland game where he went off.
The Washington game?
The Washington game.
What he became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's?
Oh boy. That's you get that beans emoji on the phone and suddenly Scotty's cooking. But I thought last night was mostly good. And I thought, probably the thing I was most encouraged by, and this is getting away from some of the late game execution into more of the soft skills kind of thing. Those guys played another ton of minutes, and they played another long stretch to end. And there was obvious physical fatigue, and like Fred's obviously wearing it a little bit right now with the shooting percentages, but the mental sharpness to pull out a game like that against a tough and engaged team, even without Trey, I was really impressed. And maybe that's not going to hold up with 4 games in 5 days this week, but day to day they've managed this fatigue pretty well. Yeah, not that they have a choice.
No, they don't have a choice at all. My favorite thing these days is Nick being grilled every pregame about minutes, every postgame about minutes as well. Less so when they win, obviously more when they lose. But he gets grilled every pregame about, hey, are you going to play more guys? And he's always like, yeah, we see the schedule. There's a lot of games coming up. We got to play our guys. We're going to extend our rotation. And then first half, he does. First quarter, Justin Champagnie was in the game. First quarter, Delano Banton was in the game. Chris Boucher, Precious Achiuwa. That's 4 subs that have come in. And then the second half, turns out Champagnie only had 3 minutes to play with. Delano only got 6. And they didn't see the time in the second half as they go back to a 7-man rotation. What is it going to take for Nick to fully extend? Is it for him? I can sympathize with him, right? Because he did extend his bench a little bit, rely on the bench a little bit in the first half. They didn't play well, right? That second quarter, not only because of the bench, but still, the second quarter they lose by 10 points. They're down the game. They need to come back. So then they ride their starters in the third quarter to make a comeback. They do that. They hold the lead. They have the momentum, and then they start the fourth. And the Knicks I could try to go back to my bench again, but. Or I can try to just maintain this momentum and close the game. And he ultimately chose the right thing in terms of winning the game. So what do you do if you're Nick?
You and I have talked about this before, right?
We have talked about every subject before. You come on every week.
The micro decisions are justifiable. You understand them. With 8 minutes left in that game, if you tell me Nick Nurse is going to put Precious Achiuwa and Justin Champagnie and an ice cold Malachi Flynn out there in place of 3 of the starters to get them some rest, I'm probably like, oh no,
what are you doing?
Oh no, this is only a 6-point game, and you lost 9 minutes Fred sat, you lost by 11 points.
Yeah.
So maybe you're not super comfortable there. So the micro decisions I get, and there's more that goes into this than just minutes totals, but when you have 4 guys in the top 10 in minutes, it's hard not to talk about it.
Yeah.
I think game to game, you can understand what he's doing, right? But I do think long term, there's a fatigue element, of course, and then there's also these guys need chances to play through mistakes, right? Right. This isn't a championship contention year. This is see who can supplement the core 5 year. And Chris and Precious get their chances no matter what. But you might need to find little stretches of time where you say, look, these next couple games, Delano's going to get to make some mistakes. Yeah. And we're going to work on film with him, and we're going to give him a shot again next game and see if they correct or see if he needs more 905 time. Or pick your bench guy. It doesn't, Svi and Utah are more known commodities at this point. But Banton and Champagnie types, maybe you need to give them a little bit of room to make mistakes. It's tough because, like you said, it's a close game at the late third when your bench normally comes in, or early fourth, and Nick Nurse looks down that bench and it's Fred VanVleet and Malachi Flynn sitting next to each other.
Yeah.
You can understand why he picks one over the other.
Yeah, I sympathize with him because, again, he gets asked about this every game, and he can't just come out and say, well, my bench sucks. But, like, that's the reason. And, like, yeah, again, this folds into the conversation we're going to have in the second half of the show, where we are going to discuss trade proposals. Last time you were on the show, actually, I think I prepared like 7 of those to rapid fire at you, and I said yes or no, and you kept insisting on asking about protections on picks.
I know, I was too specific. You were like, we're gonna rapid fire these, and I was like, okay, rapid fire, 5 minutes on each trade proposal.
You're like, no, I need top 35.
We got to get a big timer like to stick right beside my head, and you just start tapping it if I'm going longer than 60 seconds on a trade proposal.
We can do that. I will set a timer on the break.
I mean, look, we've got one more of these shows before the trade deadline.
That is true.
We could do all of next Tuesday as just hey, here's 60 seconds on the clock.
We probably will. And honestly, like I'll talk about this more in the second half, but there's definitely a lot of fake trades that I've thrown your way. But okay, last thing in terms of the rotation, in terms of everything else, Scottie's role, only 7 shots last night. Is it concerning? Is it not concerning? Is it the role? Is it the flow of the game? Is it him? What is it? I mean, I feel like I've asked you this 100 times, but this is kind of Scottie's. This is what Scottie is kind of. He'll kind of just float in and out. Some games he's very prominent. Some games he's not.
I think that it's probably a good thing that he can have games where he doesn't touch the ball a lot and still looks like he makes a positive impact.
Sure.
I thought the defense has trended in the right direction, and
he's 3 blocks last night. And a steal.
He's a rookie, so it's not going to be great, especially if you really focus in on his one-on-one defense. Like, a lot of the cool defensive plays he makes are making up for his own mistakes, but in that sense, he fits really well on the Raptors because that's a lot of it. But no, I think it's good that he can have these different type of games where he contributes positively, right? Where he does score 22 against Miami, and he's carrying a higher offensive load, and he's getting the free throw line a bunch down the stretch, and he can have that game against Washington, or he can have, I think it was the Chicago and Portland games. He had 6-7 assists in each of those.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a game like last night where he's not really on the scoreboard at all, and it's more of a defensive game from him.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would really like to see, we'd all really like to see an offensive distribution where everyone gets 18 points on 14 shots every night, and everyone has 5 assists and stuff. He's a rookie. He's figuring it out around 3 guys, maybe 4 that project as higher usage guys than him anyway. So I think these are just the ebbs and flows we're gonna have to deal with. It's more, process side for me, and he's 3 of 5 inside the arc last night. Honestly, for me, the bigger thing that stands out from his box score last night is the 1 assist. And I don't mean that he didn't have a good playmaking game, but to me, that's an indicator of how involved was he.
Yeah, he wasn't that involved. And I think part of it is like, look, the Hawks really were able to stack the paint. They were generally playing 2 bigs at all times, but they were definitely putting a priority on stacking extra bodies in the paint. We're watching a replay of the game, and there's like 5 guys in the paint just as we speak. So
and multiple Raptors on the ground.
Yeah, this is a chaotic Raptors possession here. Gary's going to get the steal, flip it over to Pascal, probably slow the play down. No numbers in transition. Anyway, I'm not trying to take.
No, you're trying to audition for an alternate feed.
I'm out of breath
on
already.
Your Steve Dangle.
Oh God, please. I mean, yes, I would love that comparison. But yeah, I mean, it just feels like for Scottie, like, where he gets really effective is you can put him in the post, you can kind of like impact the paint there and then sort of make plays around it. I think a lot of times when he's able to handle the ball in transition, he's able to make great reads. There wasn't that many transition opportunities for the Raptors last night until about the 3rd quarter where they started turning the Hawks over a bunch. So there weren't as many chances there. And then, yeah, I mean, like the one-on-one chances, even for him to post up against a guy like, who was he really going to, I guess he could post up John Collins, but like Collins is a good defender. Like that's not a high percentage play specifically. So there's going to be games like that. I do like his defense in last night's game. The 3 blocks all were at the rim. There's a play where DeAndre Hunter tried to drive at him, and Scottie always plays the guys pretty tight on the perimeter, almost allows him to drive or give him an angle, but then he's able to use his length and make up for the contest, and he did that twice, both against Hunter and also against Herter. And then he also blocked Clint Capella at the basket on the lob attempt. So like the rim protection was quite good for Scottie, and I agree with you. Like, one of the nice things about a guy who's that versatile is that, like, yeah, you can ask him to play different roles for you on the different nights. And like that Washington game, he was probably what the second option in that game. Like they were just kept finding him. But that game, they were playing him single coverage in the post with like Corey Kispert. So yeah,
Mhm.
of course he's going to score a ton, right? So
And they'd played him with I think it was KCP earlier in the year in that
yeah,
first week of the season matchup.
mm,
And that was when Scotty showed some of that like interesting like deep or like uh high like elbow range post up stuff against KCP. I don't know why it was so hard for me to describe that. So um yeah, it's coming along. The other thing with Scotty's post offense too is that OG's been doing a good job creating from there for himself and for
yes,
others.
that's
So
true.
you might be running into a situation where it's whichever one of those guys has the better matchup, because this is one of the benefits of the Raptors having, you know, I know they don't have a center, but they have size at a lot of positions.
Yep.
Is one of Siakam, Barnes, and Anunoby is likely to have a smaller guy on him. And if all three of those guys can eventually operate from the high post a little bit, then you know you're probably just funneling it to whoever has the best matchup that possession or that game.
Yeah, that I totally agree. And they've been doing a great job of late of OG runs down the floor early in transition, gets himself early post position. The Raptors find him, and he makes a play from there. And like I know it's so simple. It's not even like a play specifically, but they keep getting great offense from it. Whether OG's dunking it for himself or he's distributing to someone else who gets open. But that's enough on the Hawks game. We're gonna take a quick break right here. I'm your host Will Lou, and you've been listening to the Raptor Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. When we come back, I will throw. I'm not even kidding. A dozen fake trades at Blake Murphy. Discover all your favorite neighborhood restaurants on DoorDash. So many flavors to choose from, and ordering is Welcome back to the Raptors Show on Sportsnet 590 The Fan, powered by DoorDash. I'm your host, Will Liu. I continue to be joined by the Fan Morning Show's Blake Murphy, who you saw on TV yesterday, Blake?
Yeah.
Pre-game?
Yeah, pregame.
Doing your little thing,
Yeah.
coming in with stats, with plays.
Yeah, it's always
Analysis.
a little tough because everyone's always out. So you prep and you do a breakdown of like Trae Young's pick and roll offense, and then it's like, oh yeah, well, he's not playing. So
Yeah.
luckily I had focused on the Hawks turnaround and a little Onyeka love. But yeah,
Yeah, well,
Pre-game.
welcome to life as as John Goodwillie, or one of the Raptors video guys. Is he one of the video guys? I don't even know anymore.
I think he's a full-on assistant now.
Yeah,
Like he came up through the video room, but
That's right.
like
That's-
he's
that's
on
what
the
I'm talking
bench
about.
during games.
He is on the bench during games, and actually they have like a computer in the back where the last time I went, it was one of the nice things you could see. So like you can see the huddle quite clearly. There's like there's two assistant coaches just sitting there with the laptop, like constantly going back through plays and stuff like that, right? Which is really cool. You can kind of give like real time analysis of like, oh, they're running this kind of defense. This is what they're doing. These are the reads. Let's relay that to the coach. Relay that to the players, right? And the other part that was really cool was I think we've seen it on the broadcast occasionally, but when people flash those cue cards, those
Yes.
giant cue cards. So I actually was like watching them come up, and like somebody just brought like a giant, like basically a giant like DoorDash delivery bag, like one of those heated bags. They unzipped it, and there was like all the cards in there. So
I haven't figured
was
out
cool,
all
man.
of them yet, but I've noticed like CC Sabathia is one, the pitcher,
Mm.
and that's for a pitch play. I'm pretty sure it's one of their pistol actions,
Wow.
where it's the two pitches once they come down in semi-transition.
Okay.
You can only ever pick it up on the broadcast on free throws
Okay.
because that's the only time the camera's stable enough, and I think probably they only communicate via those at dead balls.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the only one I've picked up.
Well, look, now that you're going back to the arena and you can pretty much move wherever you want, go over there and look at the bench.
I don't know. I don't know if I'll get
Crack
that.
the
I don't
code,
know if
man.
I'm green or red on
Oh,
Thursday.
I mean, don't worry. You don't have to be. Oh, red is only if you want to go down and like talk to the
Mm.
players and stuff like that in person. Like, it's fine. You can, you'll be able to move around and stuff.
So we have a couple of updates here.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
We have, first of all, shout out to Raptors 905 head coach Patrick Mutombo,
Shout out.
who has been named the G League Coach of the Month
Yeah.
for
9 and 3.
January.
Pretty
Yeah.
good. Pretty good.
Top of the table right now since they did the little reset thing because of the dual season thing that they're running this year. Also, Kyle Lowry is officially out tonight.
Yeah.
Okpala, Oladipo, Yurtseven, and Morris are also out. PJ Tucker is questionable. Jimmy Butler is not listed on the injury report.
Okay. All right. I look forward to 6 overtimes tonight. It's going to be great. The NBA is going to have to step in and give the Raptors an extra off day somehow. Last thing before we get to this trade, proposal segment is, so what's going on? The NHL is going to do a blackjack tournament for All-Star?
Not quite. So the NHL All-Star game is in Las Vegas.
Yeah. Which is a lot better than the NBA All-Star game being in Cleveland and then Indiana and then Utah afterwards. But anyway, keep going.
The NHL has had trouble with their like All-Star Saturday night. They don't have something that's hit as well as the dunk contest and three-point contest.
Okay.
When shootouts were first the thing, they had some cool shootout stuff. They've had decent, like when I was a kid, I loved All-Star Saturday night with the target shooting and fastest skater and stuff.
Yeah, what about like the hardest shot and stuff like that? That's not cool anymore?
Nah, apparently not. They've maybe the sticks are too good. Everyone shoots like Al Iafredi now. I don't know.
Okay.
So whatever the case, they've tweaked the format a little bit. And because it's in Vegas this year, they have a couple things, but the one that's most interesting is basically target shooting blackjack. So they're going to have like this big setup of cards, like a whole deck of cards up there, and you take shots and try to get 21 as close as you can without going over. And you have 5 or 6 shots. So, if you come out and you're like, bam, if you blackjack it, no one's matching that. But you might be, if you don't have great accuracy in your first couple, you just fire away and you got 7. And so, you can then, instead of just blindly hitting, you can at least target which cards you want. I thought it was a cool tweak on it since it's in Vegas.
That's very cool. That is very cool. Definitely enjoyed it. Or I definitely will enjoy it when I watch it, which is definitely something I would plan to do. All right, let's talk about the NBA and the fake trades that I have made for you. So, okay, here are the rules, Blake. We have, like 18 more minutes on the segment here. So, and I have 12 fake trades for you. So, you got a minute and a half for each one. All right. Let's start with the first one. Goran Dragic and a first for Yusuf Nurkic and Ben McLemore. Originally I sent you just with Yusuf Nurkic. I figured include Ben in there just because I would like another shooter off the bench. Maybe he doesn't play, whatever, but he can be the next V or something. What are your initial thoughts on this? Are you yes or no from the Raptors' perspective? Do you think Portland does this?
Yeah, I like this one. Nurkic obviously fills the need at center. He's not too expensive at $12 million. You get his bird rights. He's been a little injury prone, but he's still only 27.
Yep.
So the bird rights there are maybe interesting if he's a guy you want to re-up and keep around. He's the style of big defensively that this team knows how to play with, from previous years. So I mean, he's not obviously nowhere near that level of defender, but he's solid, and he's a 15, 10, and 3 guy. I like that. The McLemore getting thrown in, sure, he was almost a Raptor that one year that they tried to sign him to a 10-day, but legally couldn't sign a 10-day. So that's when me and Jeff Siegel of Early Bird Rights, who now works for Clutch. I don't think Bobby was too happy with us when we're both tweeting like, wait a second, I don't think that's allowed under the CBA.
Unbelievable.
Newfound rules. So yeah, Ben McLemore, the former once future Raptor. Sure, bring him back.
I mean, remember when Masai was at the press conference the last time he did one, which was probably the last one he'll ever do. And after signing this new deal, and he was talking about Precious, and he's like, finally, you're mine. He'll probably say that to Ben McLemore, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're cool with this, though. Do you think Portland does this?
I mean, I think Portland is, if they're being realistic with things, the pick that you're getting in that is more important than the bird rights to Nurkic. But I could see Portland disagreeing with that, where, hey, Nurkic is part of our core, and whatever we do with CJ McCollum, or Dan, however they shake it up, they're obviously going to shake up the core in some way this offseason. Maybe they like having Nurkic as a sign and trade piece or as a retained piece, where you probably get into quibbling about the protections, but I don't mind that one. First round pick's a first round pick, and they're not going anywhere right now.
Yeah, and I'd be pretty happy with the ability to re-sign Yusuf Nurkic too, because he is coming up as a unrestricted free agent. But as you mentioned, you get his full bird rights. Don't imagine the market for centers being that robust in general. And if you can lock him in on a number, let's say 15 mil for like 3 years, we're pretty happy with that.
No, that's JV's deal. That JV on infinite rolling 3-year, 15 million contracts.
Yeah, he just keeps getting more efficient in per minute basis, but his contract is the same. It's anyway, he's basically a blogger. Okay, anyway, next big trade. Goran Dragic and a first for Bogdan Bogdanovic, who is making $18 million per year for the next 3 years. We just saw him yesterday hit 4 threes against the Raptors. Can create a little bit, can sort of create for others. Definitely a knockdown three-point shooter. Has some pretty good size for a guard. What say you to this?
This is one of my favorite frameworks. I really like Bogdanovic. You saw last night what he can give you as an offensive piece off the bench. He's, when I said that the Hawks, even their guys who aren't elite defenders, at least have size and some toughness and effort.
Yep.
He's kind of who you have in mind with that. And I think he fits really, really well. You could probably just drop him in and it'd be fine. Another guy who can do some secondary playmaking at almost 3 assists a game.
Yep.
My question here would be, does this need to expand to a larger framework? Because the Hawks are, while they're young, and while this deal does make some sense because the $18 million for Bogdanovic, 2 more years after this one, is maybe a deal that they don't love anymore as Bogdanovic nears 30. They are a team that's firmly in the play-in race, has eyes on the playoffs, probably is in the we should be winning now. And like they went to the conference finals last year.
Yeah.
I do wonder if a first to get out of some salary would be enough for them. Maybe they can convince Dragic to play there. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure he's willing, man.
They don't really need the extra, but like they have Trey DeLon and Lou Williams. They don't really need the extra one there. But maybe there's a 3-teamer here where Atlanta gets something else back and the Raptors can nab Bogdanovic. He's probably at the top of my realistic Dragic plus asset targets. It just might have to be a bigger deal.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And I think, Atlanta's a good enough team where I don't think they want to like stop the momentum that they had last year.
Exactly.
The other thing I was thinking about is too is just they signed Herter and they signed Trae Young to extensions that kick in next year. They're still on rookie scale deals right now, I believe. So that's really going to be a situation where I'm like, okay, are you really going to be able to manage all your salaries? John Collins is making a lot, Trae's making a lot, Herter's making a lot, and the one guy who doesn't really fit that but is making a lot is Bogdanovic. So I'd be pretty happy with that as a Raptors because I'm also pretty confident he can produce off the bench.
We've seen it.
Skill set. That's the thing. Like it's one thing to put Gary on the bench, right? There was a discussion about that at the start of the season. We know he wasn't best productive off the bench. And it was like, it's the same thing with Norm. Norm, you put him off the bench, he's giving you like 40% shooting and 12 points. You put him in the starting lineup, all of a sudden he's like true shooting 60% and scoring 20 a game. Like, and so, it takes a certain skill set. And I think Bogdanovich is a guy who can actually do that.
Yeah, his true shooting drops off a tiny bit as a reserve in his career, and he's basically split his games 50-50 starter reserve. But you could probably chalk that true shooting percentage change just up to a higher usage, like more self-creation. Probably, if we dove in, probably more self-creation on the three-point diet specifically.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about him being inefficient. We're talking about him going from a pretty efficient scorer to an average efficient scorer in that bench role. So definitely think he's a fit if you can work out a three-teamer.
Yeah, there you go. All right, next trade. Goran Dragic and a first. We got to make a nickname for Goran Dragic.
So I was thinking about this today. I don't know. I think it's got to be, we got to figure out a way to do Dragic, Flynn in a first, because a lot of the trade suggestions I got for the all your trade ideas are bad had Flynn in there too.
Right. People just don't want Flynn, huh?
Yeah, it's so it was HBAP back in the Nets days. It was Humphreys, Brooks, and a pick.
Yeah.
Was like the NBA Twitter thing. It even had a hashtag, I'm pretty sure. So we got to, I don't know.
Yeah,
Goran Dragic and Malachi Flynn both don't have vowels, so I don't know how we're gonna work that out.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Send us your suggestions for this trade package specifically. So yeah, Goran on the first, no Malachi on this one for KCP and Thomas Bryant. KCP you have for for one more year after this, reasonable deal around 11 mil, and then Thomas Bryant signed to an extension, has more long-term money. He's coming off of injury this year, hasn't played up to his capabilities just yet, but he had a really good year last year.
Yeah, Bryant's a guy that I've liked. This is a case where he's still only 24, actually. And again,
teammates with OG in Indiana.
Bird rights come with you. And KCP's got the clutch thing going. So you got the little OG Gary KCP clutch unit somehow.
Got Ben Simmons too.
KCP, the other thing too is his deal for next year is only guaranteed for about $5 million. So I think KCP at $14 million versus eating $5 million in dead money where the Raptors are, you'd probably still have him on the roster.
Yeah.
But it's possible that becomes, tradable and it only counts for $5 million in trade or whatever. I don't mind that one. I don't think I like it as much just because I don't think KCP's as good a player as Bogdanovich. He's been pretty inefficient this year.
Yeah.
I kind of think he's become like a little bit of the Avery Bradley-ish where the reputation hasn't caught up to the fact that he's not that good a defender anymore or not great. But maybe, who knows? Maybe you get him he's only 28. Maybe you get him out of Washington, the effort level comes back up. Thomas Bryant's a fine target as far as
I was mostly trying to get
flyer centers. Yeah. Gafford would be the guy I'd really like from there, but he's not trade eligible because he signed an extension. So.
Right. Well, okay. All right. Next one. Goran Dragic and a first for Harrison Barnes, who's on for $18 million this year and then also next year, I believe.
All right. So again, basically where I'm at with this, and I'll just, this might answer some of the other ones here. By the way, Zoobs says DFAP, Dragic, Flynn, and a pick.
That's pretty good.
Not bad.
Okay. Well, let's go with the DFAP.
Yeah. DFAP is the trade package. So, Harrison Barnes fully guaranteed next year, 18.4. But where I'm at, and these are a lot of the suggestions I got for the mailbag column, is I am at a place where if you attach a first round pick to Goran Dragic and get back a capable rotation player who's under contract for next year, or in some cases you have bird rights on and could re-sign, I'm going to say yes. We will, and the quibble will be on what protections are on the pick.
Right.
I'm probably pushing for lottery protected this year, just in case you lose the play-in game. I could see another team being like, okay, well, we'll give you top 10 protected in case you win the lottery, but because there's not a path to the Raptors bottoming out.
Yeah.
So I could see some quibbling there, but for the most part, the DFAP package for anyone who's going to help this team this year next, I'm on board with. And the reason for that is the Raptors don't project as a salary cap space team this summer. There's basically, barring a big trade of one of the 5 core pieces, there's not a path to salary cap space, but they're also like 30 million below the tax based on the current projections. So they're a team that, yeah, you can have internal growth and you can use the mid-level exception, but the mid-level exception is only going to be around $10 million.
Yeah.
You've still got a gap there where, hey, you can fill that via trade, but Dragic is your best route to fill that via trade. And Dragic isn't a trade chip in the offseason. You can't use that dead salary. You don't have a trade exception big enough. So this is kind of the way I framed this morning on the Fan Morning Show is this is, I think, an opportunity for the Raptors to basically get a jump start on their 2022 free agent work, or not even free agent work, just your roster building. You're just getting a guy a couple months early. And look, some of these teams are going to be eager to get off that contract. So whether it's Barnes, whether it's Bogdanovich, whether it's, KCP's a little further down the rankings there, but in most of these scenarios, I'm going to be pretty happy to get a year and a half out of a guy for Dragic and a back half of the first round pick in a shaky draft.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You looked a little confused as I was going there. Is everything all right?
Yes. I mean, I was just trying to multitask just
okay.
a little bit. Sorry. Okay, we're this always happens, so we're gonna have to go even quicker for some of these trades.
Yeah,
but don't worry,
course.
some of these are pretty low quality.
You're gonna send me these after, because on Thursday at sportsnet.ca, I'll have a mailbag column out going into some more of these from you, from Michael Grange, from JD Bunkus, from listeners and readers. So keep an eye out for that at .ca.
So you're saying no for Pascal for Ben Simmons? What are you telling me?
I'm saying no to that one right now. Anything involving the core four, yeah. I'm saying it's an off-season trade. You're not doing that in the middle of the season.
Yeah, I'm also just not doing that for Ben Simmons. Okay, let's go. More rapid fire. Goran Dragic in a first for Josh Hart and Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I think
that's good. I like Josh Hart.
I like Josh Hart, and I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker has gone the wrong direction since he entered the league, but is a pretty interesting. Hey, if you get this guy in a good development situation, he's got the skills that you would need. He just doesn't have the approach to the game that you need with that skill set right now. And you just turned Gary into a better version of Gary. Why not try it again with Nickeil?
I'm sure he would love to play in Canada as well.
Plus, it starts the Shea tampering early.
As if it hasn't already started. Anyway, Goran Dragic for Spencer Dinwiddie, straight up salary dump. Spencer Dinwiddie recently came out with a quote saying, I started coming in here and trying to speak up as a leader, but then they told me to fall back.
Yeah, it's just
such a funny quote. I'm so sorry.
Also, it's weird. Like, I'm sure Dinwiddie meant well, but like coming in and talking as a leader, and you're just trying to get all your teammates to invest their salaries in NFTs. I don't know if that's leadership. I like Dinwiddie, but I think he's probably at 3 years, $17 million. He falls more in the KCP tier than the Bogdanovich tier of guys I'd be excited for. You see, I've enjoyed talking to him in the past. He's by all accounts a solid player.
And he's a nice guy.
Yeah,
the Malcolm Miller.
Yeah, he is a nice guy. But if Malcolm Miller made 10 times as much money, I just think that one is he's a little below the cut. Like, I'd be fine with it, but he's below what we'll call the excitement cutoff line.
Okay, not exciting enough. Okay, next one, not Goran Dragic for once. Chris Boucher and Malachi Flynn for Kobe White.
This is a tough one. This is one I think the Bulls would have entertained if they hadn't had all these injuries. Because then you're looking, oh man, Chris Boucher fits in as a potential bench big for this team, an energy changer, and they were a little superfluous at guard. But right now, I don't know if this is still the same level of all-in year for them if they take a step back because of these injuries, and B, they probably need Kobe White too much with Caruso and Ball out right now, and DeMar and Levine have both been banged up at times and stuff. I don't think they can afford the spare guard right now. Maybe you can expand it, throw Malachi in there, and they believe in him or something. Maybe you just let Matt Thomas play point guard. I'm not sure, but I think Chicago balks at that one now.
Yeah, no, I hear you. This is something that definitely would have worked earlier. I thought. By the way, Kobe White, one of the rare players who has a neutral wingspan.
Yeah, that's reflected in his defense.
Yeah, that too. That's the part where I feel like Nick probably wouldn't play him as much. But he is still a very talented scorer.
He is what you would call a bucket.
He's definitely he's like a Kemba type in a way. Although Kemba was probably more athletic than Kobe, but still he's been productive in 3 years, at least offensively. It's just defensively,
and fairly efficiently. He's not like he's a gunner, but sometimes you need that for a bench. Like what would fit well with this bench right now in a lot of these units, and it's a guy who can just get you 10, 12 points.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, another one. Goran Dragic for Eric Bledsoe and a distant first.
Yeah. I think Bledsoe's more functional right now. I don't think the Clippers do this one just because.
By the way, the Clippers have no first until like forever.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by distant first. I didn't even bother looking it up, but it might be like 2030.
The Clippers are also in like so this one would save them a ton in tax obligations for next year.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Well, maybe it wouldn't because Bledsoe only has a $4 million of that $19 million guaranteed next year. I think the Clippers probably say no pick will flip them straight up to get out of the Bledsoe obligation. But to give a pick as well, they're in to-win now mode. I don't know about giving up picks to unload salary. I think they'd want a player back.
Yeah, that's fair. But I don't know if I want Eric Bledsoe either, actually. So let's just say no on both sides of this trade. Chris Boucher for Dante DiVincenzo, straight up.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Dante's not having a good year.
I know he's not, but he's younger. He's more of a, like, he's 4 years younger. He fits more of a need in terms of what does this core need off the bench moving forward.
The Bucks? But they have Grayson, they have Pat Connaughton.
No. For the Raptors.
Oh, for the Raptors.
More of what they need going forward.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that one.
Yeah, I would be pretty happy with that one as well, actually. I think actually a Dante type would actually fit the Raptors quite well.
Yeah, and you bet on your developmental system and stuff. It's similar to a Gary.
Shoot. No, he can shoot for sure. Yeah.
It's similar to a Gary situation where he's going to be an RFA, so he's not, he's coming in the door at $4.6 million, but you're going to pay him more. But again, the Raptors don't have cap space next summer, and they're well below the tax, so that's another type of guy you're okay with.
Yeah, exactly. Chris Boucher in 2 seconds for Justin Holiday. He's a little old, but he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's good. I don't know his contract.
He makes like
offhand.
$7 million this year and then $7 million next year.
Okay, so that one I'm actually I like that one. I like, even though he's 32, I like that he's an extra year at a sub mid-level contract.
Yep.
That's a guy who could be a bench piece for you this year and next. He's not having a very good year either, but who on Indiana is. So I'd probably, I'd argue with you over what year and any protections and stuff like that on a second, but I like Holiday. I think he'd be a fit. I don't think that one happens, but
yeah,
he's a fine player.
Yeah, it's not. I wouldn't mind that one. I really wouldn't mind that one. I mean, it's a very temporary fix, though.
It's just hard to see them making a trade that makes them older.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah, you're right. Okay, and then the last fake trade we have here: Goran Dragic and Chris Boucher for Reggie Bullock and Dwight Powell. It's not that exciting. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I like Reggie Bullock. I like Dwight Powell. Fine. You're a little log jammed of like smallish centers in that. I probably ask for some sort of compensation for Dallas to get them out of. Not that Dwight Powell's contract is bad, but between the two of them, that's them getting out of 20 million in 20 million plus next year. So I probably ask for a little bit back.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, Blake, I look forward to the day you become Raptors general manager or assistant GM or regional scout or
905 assistant GM. That's maybe as high as we can.
Aren't you already that?
I don't think they have one.
So there you go. You should call up your guy, your man Chad. All right, that does it for us today, Blake. I appreciate you. I'm your host, Will Lou, and you've been listening to the Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. Make sure you find the Raptors Show wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe, and please rate and review our show. As a reminder, we are back in the studio and streaming live once again on Sportsnet's YouTube channel between Monday to Friday at 2 to 3 p.m. Thank you to our guest, Blake Murphy, and our board producer, Derek Brandeo, and to Jennifer Rolnick for helping us behind the scenes with the YouTube stream. I will talk to you tomorrow. Discover all your favorite neighborhood restaurants on DoorDash. So many flavors to choose from, and ordering is easy. For a limited time, get 25% off and $0 delivery fees on your first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter the code TheFan25. Fuel up for tip-off. Order today through the DoorDash app or online. DoorDash, delicious, delivered. Terms and conditions apply. See site for details.